Welcome back to the TMBC Wake YouTube channel. If you haven't entered the surfboard giveaway, make sure to get over that video and get yourself entered. I'll put a link right above me, I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll put a link at the end of this video. Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to provide you with some of my best tips that helped me to nail my first heelside back roll. The heelside back roll was my very first flip or invert, and I believe that it is one of about 3 different inverts in wakeboarding that may be the easiest for you to learn first, and I'll actually tell you right now why I think each of those might be the best for you to try first. So first of all, if on a trampoline or off a diving board or even on flat ground, if you are more comfortable with doing a front flip, then I would say the heelside back roll may likely be the easiest invert or flip for you to try first. If you're behind a boat. And that takes me to the next flip or invert that might be the easiest one to learn first, which is the toe side back roll. Now, if you're at a cable park, based on watching tutorials and kind of comparing the heel side back roll and the toe side back roll between how you would do it off a kicker at a park or behind a boat, it seems like at a cable, a toe side back roll might be easier. So don't know that from experience doing it myself. I just want to provide you some data and some information in case you're trying to decide what you should do first. The next one is the tantrum. I can tell you that I like the tantrum the best out of the 3. And that is mostly due to the fact that I've always been a backflip person. I've always been most comfortable doing backflips. If you are most comfortable doing a backflip, there may be a good chance that the tantrum might be the best trick for you to try first behind a boat. The reason why a toe side back roll is likely not the best trick for you to try first behind a boat is because you'd have to be pretty good at jumping toe side wake to wake consistently, which a lot of times when people are working on their first invert, they're generally not jumping toe side wake to wake. But if you are, that's great. You might want to try the toe side back roll behind the boat if you are more comfortable with doing backflips. So all that being said, today I'm going to provide you the best tips that I have on what helped me to nail my heelside back roll. So to help illustrate the tips I'm going to provide you on nailing your first back roll, I'm going to share a video with you of the day that I landed my first back roll, because I honestly look back at that day and that is the day that I was doing my back roll the most proper. Ever since then, I've it's kind of molded into, I think, what they refer to as a Mexican back roll. So I want to show you the way that you really should be trying it as opposed to how it looks when I do it now. So to start out with, you should probably be jumping heel side wake to wake consistently, but it's not required. You can do a back roll off of one wake if you want to. In fact, you're welcome to work on these tips one wake. When I first started working on this trick at the boarding school, courtesy of Travis Moy, that's how he had me working on it, and honestly that's how I started getting the most motivation to get it completed. I did not nail my trick while I was at the boarding school, but I definitely got my foundation started there, and he was having me try it one wake. One of the biggest tips I'm going to provide you, and I think this can help with a lot of different tricks when you're learning it for the first time, is I slow my boat down to 18 miles per hour. You might even be able to go less, basically as slow as you can go with still getting enough tension, which I found was 18 miles per hour, and also being able to make the wake, the side of the wake that you're jumping from, nice and clean. And then also shortening the rope so that the wake is closer together. I only ever do those things to hit a trick for the first time. After that, then I start taking it to my normal speed. And right now my normal speed is right about 21 miles per hour. And my rope length, I think, is between 65 and 70 feet. That's what I normally ride at behind my 24 MXZ. So that's my first tip. You want to slow your boat down to around 18 miles per hour, and also shorten the rope so that the two wakes are as close to each other as possible. Now, the reason I did this for the back roll is because I wanted my landing to be as smooth as possible, as opposed to if you do it one wake, you're kind of landing flat, and sometimes you end up landing on the back of the other wake. So for me, that was a big help to make it to where I was jumping wake to wake, but I wasn't getting a ton of air and I wasn't going very fast, so my wrecks weren't hard, and also I was getting a smooth landing. So that's tip number one, and you can see in this video that it is very close together, and I'm cutting out as far as I can, but it's still not really that far out. So the next big tip is that for the back roll, you need a lot of edge, and you need most of that edge to be right at the wake. And that was very hard for me because I had developed a bad habit of cutting really hard when I first turn and then flattening off and then jumping the wake, which meant not much pop, and just basically I was consistent wake to wake, but it just didn't look great. So I had to really work out of that habit. You really need to do a progressive edge, and your hardest edge needs to be at the wake. You can see in this video that I'm cutting nice and hard, and I'm cutting it straight through the wake. So that is big tip number two, is make sure you have a nice hard edge and the hardest edge is right at the wake. Tip number three is two different pieces. You need to make sure that you hold onto the handle with both hands. Later on, you may not need to do that after you're doing them on a regular basis, but it helps a lot to hold onto the handle with both hands. And also, right as you're leaving the wake, you want to look under your lead armpit. So basically duck your head under that lead armpit. It doesn't need to go up in there, you just need to duck your head and kind of look up underneath your lead armpit. So in other words, if your lead arm is your left arm, you're gonna look under your left armpit. If your lead arm is your right arm, you're gonna look under your right armpit. So, and that's gonna help throw the rotation. As you edge out, you need to make sure you edge all the way through the wake so that you get that, you get the force of the tension that whips the board out behind you and around. So you need to make sure that you're edging all the way through the wake, and just as you're leaving the wake, you're gonna look under your lead armpit. It is important after this step or during this step and all the way through until you land that you keep the handle at your front hip and close in. You'll notice in this shot that I keep the handle in the same place down at waist level, and it's close in. If you let that handle out in front of you, it's going to slow the rotation. If you let the handle out to the other side, it's going to make you want to spin 180. One of the things I've noticed with helping a friend on back roll over the years is he is actually right-handed, but he rides regular, which means left foot forward, and his lead hand when he jumps the wake heel side is his left hand. And in that case, he has a tendency to let the handle drift to his back hip. You want to keep that handle at your lead hip, whatever hip is in front, going at the wake. You need to keep that handle right there in front of that hip, tight in as you rotate. The last tip, the final tip, tip number 5, is you want to make sure that you stick your feet down to grab the landing. I worked on this trick a lot. I think I have over 100 attempts on it before I actually nailed it. I had many attempts where I was getting all the way around, seeing the landing, and I basically just was kind of letting it do whatever when I got around. And the heel side back roll is a little tricky because you don't see the landing till the very end. But either way, after enough attempts for me, I started just sticking my feet down. Sticking your feet down helps you catch the landing, so stop your rotation. It also gives you room to bend your knees. So if you're really tucked in, you have your knees bent, and you're spinning around, and you haven't stuck your feet down, then chances are you're going to land, and you're not going to have room to absorb the landing with your knees. So you need to stick your feet down so you have room to absorb the landing with your knees. You can tell in the video the moment that I figured out I need to stick my legs down to stick the landing. That's when I got my first invert, and that led to many other tricks because it only inspired me to keep on going forward. So I hope these tips help you in nailing your first flip or invert. If you have any other ideas or tips to add, please leave them in the comments below to help other people. Also, if you'd like to see me do a video and provide tips on a specific trick, please leave it in the comments below. I'll definitely work on producing videos for those tricks that are most commented first. So shout out to Toby Muir. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. He requested the heel side back roll. And that's it for this video. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you can be notified of my future videos. I'll see you next week.